You're listening to Who's Tom and Dick, a weekly podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers, fighting stage 4 lung cancer, and Patrick Mortimer, living with heart disease. Why not grab yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy the chatter as we discuss and share information, talking about tough subjects, and offering help, support, and motivation with a positive mental attitude.
Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning to you, Martin.
How are you today?
I'm fair to middling, as they say here in Suffolk.
Well, weather not getting you down?
It's bright, it's damp, but it's bright and cheerful. So, we're the nights are fair drawing in, though. Have you noticed?
As we say in Suffolk. But we've got another guest on today. Look forward to talking to her. Shall I introduce her?
Why don't you?
Our guest today is a British actress and a writer, best known for her role of Agnes in Little Big Things, for which she won the Olivier Award as Best Actress in a Supporting Role in a Musical. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Miss Amy Trigg.
Good morning, Amy, and welcome to Who's Tom and Dick.
Morning, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm keeping well. I actually woke up semi-early today, which is rare for me. I'm a night owl. Yeah, how are you guys?
Yeah, well, I actually woke up semi-early because Patrick said he wanted to talk to me earlier on the Zoom.
Oh, crikey. Oh.
Yeah, didn't expect to be caught on the hotline like that, did I, Patrick?
We're both night owls, though, aren't we? We're often texting each other at 1 o'clock.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. I always panic when I go to text someone or send an email and then realise it's like 1, 2 a.m. and think, no, I need to send this. But
well, you did that to me. It wasn't quite that late. And we'd seen you on a TV programme, and my wife said to me, text Amy, tell her that you've just seen her on TV. It was The Couple Next Door. That's what you thought. And anyway, I said, I can't text her at this time of night. And then about 5 minutes later, my phone went and it was you saying, yeah, I'll come on the podcast.
Yeah, honestly, I'm much better to get hold of at night than in the morning.
Oh, right.
I need to get better. I need to actually become an adult and, operate like humans.
Let's start from the beginning. Do you want to tell us, because obviously you've had spina bifida from birth?
Yes.
And you're in a wheelchair. So do you want to tell us your story, really?
Yeah. Well, I was born with spina bifida, and my parents didn't really know. Well, they didn't know that I had spina bifida until I was born. It didn't show up on the scans or anything. I think back in those days, it didn't I guess the scans
not that long ago.
No, it wasn't. But yeah, it was a surprise for them and probably quite, scary because they didn't really know what was going on. They'd never heard about spina bifida or anything. And I remember, I think Mum got given a book. I don't know, my grandparents maybe gave her a book or something to read up about things, and I think she was warned by doctors not to go and Google anything or not to read up too much because you know what it's like. You Google one thing and it sounds awful. I was very lucky growing up because my parents were incredibly supportive, and I had lots of operations and everything as I was growing up. Because the thing with spina bifida, I feel like, the main point when they want to operate and investigate is when the child is growing. And because that's when the spinal cord is kind of being stretched, I guess, and when it becomes tethered. Because, spina bifida, it means... What does it mean in Latin? I wrote this in a play and now I've completely forgotten, which says something about what I do about lines, but I don't need them anymore. I think it means split spine in Latin, and it's when, the back isn't fully formed, so the spinal cord gets tethered and affects all the nerves and everything. So I'm 4'11", so I didn't have loads of growing to do. And I think they removed my growth plates on one of my legs at one point to try and, stop everything. So I could have been a little bit taller.
Yeah.
The life I could have led. Not that it matters. I'm sat down all the time. The only time it matters is when I'm trying to get something from the top shelf in Tesco's.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I spent childhood kind of having operations and, experimenting with different things. And it's one of those weird things, I think, because then you hit 16 or whatever age you leave children's hospital and thrown into the adult world of hospital care. And gradually get a little bit forgotten about. I remember I used to see so many consultants when I was younger, different consultants about different areas of health and everything. And they gradually just petered off one by one. So now it's just like spina bifida clinic at Chelsea and Westminster every year, which is amazing. It's like a full on MOT. You go there and you like go around the different people, and they're fab, and they've really helped me out in recent years.
What was the hospital, Chelsea and Westminster?
Yeah, they've got a spina bifida clinic, which I think they were worried it was going to stop because the guy who was running it, Mr. Morgan, he was retiring, but they managed to find other people to take over and keep it going because I think they heard the outcry from people who had already felt abandoned when they became adults in with hospital care, and so they managed to keep it going, which is amazing. Yeah. It's so important. There's so many things that I didn't know about that I needed to keep an eye out for until I was like in adulthood, and even just silly things that you don't even think about, and then you find out about it. You're like, oh, I wish I kind of known that when I was growing up. It was like I wish I'd had an extra, like, what is it, PSHE class that was actually about my own kind of health and the possibilities of what might be.
Yeah. So have people discriminated against you, during your life with this, either from a child or an adult?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I probably haven't had it as bad as a lot of people, and that's great. But I mean, I really struggled when I was a child with, I guess inclusion was something that I struggled with, and I struggled putting myself out there, and I missed so much school because of hospital and doctor's appointments and everything. So I didn't really have that many friends for quite a few years, particularly at school. And, loneliness breeds all kinds of other feelings, and also made me kind of vulnerable to bullies and, bully-like behavior. And it took me a while, and thank goodness I did find a really solid group of friends kind of halfway through secondary school, probably. And that was from joining drama class. That was my kind of savior, to be honest. But there were some tricky situations with that as a child. And then when I was, because I'm an actor and a writer, but when I was getting into acting and showing an interest, especially when I was a teenager, a lot of people kind of questioned how that would work. And I remember, certain comments being made about me not being able to dance because I use a wheelchair, and things like that. And a lot of those comments at that time, if they're coming from, people of similar age to me, I think just comes from ignorance. And it's one of the reasons why I think representation, it matters so much, because now hopefully there's slightly less of that for kids growing up, because there is more representation on screens and, across media. Whereas, part of me, I do kind of forgive and forget some of those comments because I think they were told from a place of just not understanding or not knowing. But it was hard at the time, of course. It makes you question everything, and you think, well, maybe I shouldn't. And then, at drama school, it was amazing, but there were still, moments I couldn't do what others could do. And I remember, like, there was a set built for one of our third year shows, and it was completely inaccessible. And it wasn't until I was in the room looking at the set plans and had to kind of point it out, that they made it as accessible as they could at that point. And I think that's what I learned from that time of my life, like early adulthood, is to speak up for yourself as much as possible, to avoid being kind of discriminated against. If you can, I felt like I had to be like, oh, actually, can we not do this? Can we do that? And then it would maybe avoid similar situations down the line. But yeah, it's just at times been hard to convince people that I can earn a place in certain rooms. And especially, with my acting career, I've spoken about it before, about early on when there really wasn't much representation, and the representation that we did have on screens and on stages were quite minimal and quite monolithic. There'd either be the victim or the villain, and you'd get castings through for a character in a TV show that doesn't really have a name yet. They don't really know who it's going to be. They just know they want a disabled character. So you go along to the audition room and you sit there surrounded by every disabled actor that you already know, because it's a stereotype that we all know each other, but it's also embarrassingly true. So we can't really fight that one.
Yeah.
And that feels really odd, because you're sat there thinking, oh, I'm not really auditioning as Amy the actor, they're auditioning my disability. And it's moments like that kind of have affected me quite a lot. And then, there's more obvious things about not being able to do certain jobs because I can't get in the building, or, I've had plans to do certain shows and then lifts have broken and I've had to be not do the show essentially. And, lots of that's happened a few times. And it's tough in that way. And also, of course, when you do get in the room, it's also the way people sometimes talk makes me a bit uncomfortable. I've been in rooms where I've been referred to as the wheelchair. Really? And now if if we're choreographing something, they'll be like, okay, and now if we go over by the wheelchair, and I'm like, Amy.
Yeah.
My name's Amy.
Yeah.
Or Trigg. Call me Amy or Trigg, I don't care.
You're right.
Yeah, and that's awkward, and I have struggled with speaking up about that, because I also know it's often not coming from a bad place. They just don't know. They don't know that that's not right, because, I mean, yeah. And so I try and, point things out when I can. But sometimes it's just a bit awkward. And when you're on a job where you're only there for a few days, sometimes I don't think this is right. And I'd probably tell other people to do the better thing and speak out. But sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to have this conversation right now. I just want to do my job and go home. And that's okay as well. I think you can't be an activist all the time when you're just meant to be at work.
Yeah. One thing I picked up on there, Amy, you said actor. Now I've got this big thing on this group that I'm on. You're all called actors now, aren't you?
Oh, like between actor and actress, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really cared. Like, call me whichever. Like, I think they both sound nice.
but mainly nowadays it's actor, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think actress. Oh, there was someone who, like, a well-known actor, and I can't remember who said it now, but said you'd be as scared of a lioness as you would of a lion. And I always think that's pretty cool. So for me, they're quite interchangeable, but I know other people feel differently.
Yeah, I've been called on various sites that I've been on a dinosaur, because I said that, it's nowadays known as an actor rather than an actress. And
really?
Like that. So but I just picked it up that you said actor then.
So you are a dinosaur. So what inspired you to pursue a career in film and television, and how did your journey begin?
Yeah, well, I've always loved theatre and storytelling from when I was little, and I think part of it was maybe to escape into another character and to also just have fun. Like, I just loved telling stories when I was little, which I think most actors did, when they were younger, for attention. Basically, we're attention seekers from a young age, and as I grew older, I just knew that I wanted to give it a go, and I knew it would be hard, but I thought it was one thing in life that if I didn't give it a good bash, then I'd probably regret it. And I went through stages of not really knowing how I wanted to be in the industry. I just knew I wanted to be in the industry, so I looked into kind of stage management. Obviously, acting was kind of first love. Directing, I've gone down the directing path a few times actually. And makeup artist, I was looking at that. That's where I did my work experience when I was at school at Charles Fox in Covent Garden. So I just knew I wanted to be in that industry, and mainly theatre. I don't think I was thinking too much about TV at that time. And I ended up auditioning for drama schools and getting help from Anne May, who we were speaking about earlier before we started, when we who is amazing. She was a teacher at the school I went to, who never really taught me, but I just heard that she was amazing, and I reached out to her and I was like, I know nothing about Shakespeare, please help. And she sorted me out, and she's one of the reasons I love Shakespeare. And I've gone on to work with the RSC and the Globe and stuff, and that's pretty much down to Anne, to be honest, I think. So we started prepping audition monologues. I auditioned for so many places, like it was ridiculous. I just thought, well, if we're doing it, let's go wild. My poor parents, because obviously some of those auditions cost money. I think it costs more now, or maybe it's gone down again. But I went for everything. Got into 2 places. Well, no, 1 place, 2 courses. Because that was another thing. Actually, I've just reminded myself that when I was auditioning for mostly musical theatre courses because I've always loved musical theatre. And I remember there was a comment made about me maybe not being right for musical theatre. And so it really got to me, and I changed pretty much all of my applications to the acting course, except for Mountview, where I auditioned for both musical theatre and acting. And that was the place I got into both courses. So then I had to decide between musical theatre and acting. And I think at that point I thought, well, let's give it a go. Let's do musical theatre, knowing that it might be trickier further ahead. And it kind of was, when I left drama school, I was very lucky to get an agent from Showcase. And I got my first TV job based off the show reel that we made in 3rd year at Mountview, which was surprising. I didn't expect that. I probably was a bit cocky at the time because I was like, I didn't even have to audition. But I did it, and I wasn't very good in the job. I had 2 lines. One of them was off camera, and I had to re-record both lines afterwards. It's not my proudest moment, but I really loved it.
Patrick was in EastEnders, and as an extra, and he had 1 line, and they cut that.
That's not bringing that up.
They don't know what they're missing.
It? Sure.
That exists somewhere. It exists somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I was in Lovejoy and I walked past a shop and Tinker went past and they cut me.
It happens. That's always a fear, actually. Like because I tend to do jobs and then almost forget about them in the same way that I do auditions. And once I leave, I've done my job and whatever happens, happens. I do the same when I've actually filmed the job, because you just never know, do you?
No.
Like, it could be cut. It could be, they could decide that they don't like your voice and record someone else's voice to dub you. You just never know. So I never expect too much.
I've just remembered, was it Guys and Dolls that you were in at the school?
Did I do that? I don't think I did Guys and Dolls at Rickstones, but I think that was just after me.
Yeah, we did that one. I didn't know if you did that one.
I did a little bit in West Side Story. I was a jet.
Oh, yeah, West Side Story.
Yeah. I didn't say anything, but I came on with a basketball and I looked the part. That was my first show there.
So you actually came out of Mountview as one of the first users of a wheelchair. So it must have made you feel and your parents feel very proud.
Yeah. It was a real moment of achievement. It was also, 3 years of being a bit of a guinea pig in some ways, which is also how I felt a little bit at school. I mean, as you know, the school that I went to when I was a teenager had to kind of adapt for me to, be right for me. And I've always been pretty lucky, I would say, with like my schools and with Mountview in particular, that they have done all those things without making me feel a certain way. Like Mountview didn't have a lift when I started there in their main building, and by my second term they'd put a lift in so that I could get to the canteen and the library. And the teachers were incredible. They adapted everything that I needed adapting, but also pushed me. They didn't mollycoddle me or anything like that. They were like, at a point you're going to go into the industry where you're going to have to adapt dances yourself, so you need to learn that. And that was part of my training. And I was never treated differently, I would say, at Mountview. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So although it felt like an achievement, I almost wasn't aware of it at points. I was only really made aware of it when we were having to have conversations of, okay, this is where we do the showcases in 3rd year. Let's go and have a look and make sure it works access-wise. And, those kind of conversations were the only real moments I was reminded. And I think there was part of me that there were some conversations that it was exciting that a wheelchair user was going into the industry who was trained up and everything and ready to go. And maybe in my head at some points I thought, yeah, it's going to be amazing. Like, I'm going to come in and like set the world on fire. And then I left Mountview, and musical theatre was incredibly quiet. It was incredibly quiet for for a very long time, and other jobs as well were really quiet. So it felt a little bit disheartening in those first couple of years. But fortunately, because I had my agent and I kind of had a mentality of training doesn't stop when you leave drama school or uni or anything like that. So I just threw myself into other things. And that's eventually how I got into writing, which is now like a massive part of my life and career. So I'm kind of glad that I went through. I say I'm glad. At the same time, if I'd left Mountview and they'd offered me like a blockbuster film and I was in the Marvel franchise, I'd probably be saying I was glad as well. Marvel, if you're listening.
Well, talking of blockbuster films, weren't you in Mamma Mia?
I was, yeah. I pop up in the Waterloo number. I'm one of the dancers.
Yeah,
and yeah, that was great fun. That was really fun to film.
Yeah, I've never seen it because I don't like those kind of films. But next time my wife wants to watch it, I'm going to watch it now on purpose to spot you. So
it's a great film. It's such a fun, well-made film. Like I'm a big fan of. That was Mamma Mia. Yeah, here we go again. And it was so much fun to film, and everyone was so lovely. They were so great, and I remember loving filming that because I'd just come off the back of doing a tour of a musical, which was my first taste of doing a musical in a while, and then got to go and do that surrounded by it because the cast for
Pierce
the
Brosnan
Waterloo.
Did you get to meet Pierce Brosnan?
No. Did I? No, I don't think I did. No, because we were with the younger versions of the characters, like in flashbacks.
Oh, okay.
But also the entire like ensemble, all the dancers in that number. Quite a lot of people had been in the Mamma Mia musical in the West End, and were kind of these musical theatre actors who I admired for like a long time. So I was very excited just to be in that room, to be honest.
Yeah.
How would you describe the current state of disability representation in film and TV today? Is it improving all the time, or?
I think it is improving. I think it really is. I mean, again, going back to when I graduated in 2013, it's a completely different landscape. So there's been massive improvements, and that makes me very happy. And I sometimes, hear that it's in such a bad state. And in some ways it is, but also it would be a shame not to acknowledge the change, because that change is something that a lot of people worked very, very hard for and don't want to undermine like what they did. But there is a way to go. And I think at the moment, the issue is maybe the risk of disabled artists not being able to progress in their careers as easily or as, naturally, I guess, as others, because you'll often have a breakthrough kind of role for a disabled actor, and they will do that and it will be great. But then what's next? Because there isn't too much out there. So the ladder is kind of invisible or doesn't exist. And because of that, you've got people who aren't being able to practice their craft all the time. I mean, I say all this, I can't speak for other people. I can kind of only speak for myself. But, I've been very, very fortunate in a lot of the things I've done. And I did a show called The Little Big Things last year, the year before. And it was my favorite job I've ever done, I think. And it was so exciting that we had this musical that had disability at its heart. We had multiple wheelchair users in the cast. We had other disabled actors who were in the cast, and we were in the heart of the West End doing a new musical. Like, that was so exciting, and so many people were like, "This probably wouldn't have happened like a few years ago or whatever." And it was such a moment. People were so excited by it, and people really saw themselves in that show. And I was very lucky that the character that I played was really well received, and we were nominated for some Olivier Awards, and I was very lucky to win an Olivier Award for that portrayal of Agnes. And I think everyone was like, "This is it. We've done it. We've cracked disability in musical theatre."
Yeah.
And then it's been quiet since. And I think a lot of people find that when they've done a kind of role or job that feels like a big moment in their career. But I can't help feeling that, or worrying, I can't help worrying, I guess, that does the mainstream industry feel that they've ticked the box of the disabled show for a bit and we're not going to see it again for a while? And how many people are going to actively find ways of putting those disabled actors into roles that aren't written to be disabled, just to keep them in work and to keep progressing and improving? Because, that feels like the only way right now.
You say you go for auditions for a part and there's no name to the part. You don't really know what the part is. Whereas a lot of actors, they receive a script, don't they? And the part that they're going to play, so they have a chance before they go to the audition. Do you think they're placing a disabled person into the script just to tick that box, as you say?
Yeah, I think so. And to be fair, that doesn't really happen, I don't think, as often now. That was quite prevalent maybe 10 years ago, but I haven't had it happen very often since, really. But yeah, I do think there's an element of tick boxing. And look, I get it. And sometimes tick boxing helps. It can get people in the door and it can make sure that people are represented. But I think, if you're going to tick a box, then flourish the box as well.
Amy, I can't believe that you just said, "Oh yeah, I won an Olivier Award in that." You won an Olivier Award.
Yeah,
Tell us more about this. I mean, the whole evening, and when you got nominated.
Yes, well, we'd finished the show by the time the Olivier nominations came out. So, me and my partner Jordan, who I met doing the show, that's how we met, and we one lazy morning we forgot that the nominations were being announced, and both of our phones were like going wild with the cast WhatsApp group. Everyone being like, "Oh my gosh, we've been nominated for this! Oh my gosh!" So that was how we found out, and we were very, very excited because we got nominated for Best New Musical, Best Choreographer for Mark Smith, and Best Actress in a Supporting Role for me. And then part of the excitement of knowing that we were going to be performing at the Oliviers and be nominated was the fact that we were all going to be brought back together again. We were buzzing because we were like, oh, we weren't sure if this was going to happen. We'd not seen each other every night at work anymore. So the main excitement, to be honest, was performing in Act One. And I remember in the final note, just like shaking a little bit and trying not to cry because it just felt really overwhelming looking around and seeing, people who we still are so close as a company. So when I went and took my seat in Act Two, I'd kind of forgotten that what was about to happen with the category being announced. It was just completely overwhelming, honestly. I was so thrilled about it because it was a moment that felt a little bit like I was getting the acknowledgement or the seal of approval from an industry that I'd been working really hard to be a part of, from Mountview, doing those 3 years of musical theatre and then kind of giving up on musical theatre, if I'm being honest, and thinking it wouldn't happen for me. To then have that moment felt really important for me. And also I was a bit like, I did work hard for this. And I put my all into it, because when the role of Agnes came along in The Little Big Things, I thought, how often is it going to be that this kind of role has been written by these writers who were listening to all the things we're saying and doing a really good job of, writing truthfully, with a creative team and producers and everyone who wants it to be the best show possible. And, that doesn't always happen with these kind of roles. So I just tried to make the most of it and worked really hard on it. And I'm very proud and pleased that it paid off. And I wasn't expecting it at all. Didn't write a speech, which was a mistake.
Say that was my next question. Did you have a speech?
Oh boy, no. People kept saying to me during the day, they were like, "Have you written a speech?" I was like, "No, I haven't. No." And I was getting I was just a bit stressed. It felt a little bit of pressure, and I didn't expect it. The category I was in was stacked with brilliant performances. So when I did win, I think you can see it on camera, I turned to Jordan and I'm like, "Oh no, I haven't got a speech." That's the first thing I said. But I did my best. It was a bit ridiculous because I didn't mention Henry Fraser and the Fraser family, whose story it is and is based on.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of an oversight from Amy Trigg. But afterwards, I went backstage and they take you through to the press room and you do all the interviews and everything. And there was one bit where they were like, if you want to carry on your speech now, you can. And so I spoke a bit more about Henry and the Frasers and Ruth, who is the real life person that Agnes is based on. But I don't know where that video ever got to. So it exists. The extension of the speech exists. And then we just partied afterwards. It was really fun. Just celebrate. It was a very surreal moment, and I felt very lucky that my parents were both there, and my cousin and two of my best friends, and then obviously I got to share it with Jordan as well, which was very special for us. Yeah.
How do you deal with the highs and lows? Because show business is, you come off stage buzzing, and that night you must have been absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
And you have to come down and then get back to normal life. And you think, how do you deal with that?
I try and enjoy the highs when there are highs because of being aware that there will be lows and quiet moments. And on the flip side of that, I also try and embrace the quiet moments and be like, right, okay, it's quiet, but maybe now is just your rest time. So you're ready for the next kind of high. That's the mentality that I try to have, but don't always. There's been times when, you've just had a massive high, and then a couple of months later, you're thinking, how am I earning money for the next few months? And, fortunately, I've found writing, and that keeps me going and keeps me creatively engaged when acting is quiet.
Yeah, because don't you write for a children's TV program?
I don't. No. I've written one, which because development. I've got quite a few things in development, and there is a kids TV show, but no, not actively.
Well, can you sack that researcher that was working for you, Martin?
Pardon?
Can you sack that researcher that's working?
Yeah. I forget Tommy and somebody it was.
Oh, Ralph and Katie.
That's it.
Oh yeah,
Ralph and Katie.
Yeah. I don't know what I don't think it's a children's show, just because we used a few words in there that probably parents wouldn't be too happy with.
Oh, right.
But yeah, it was that was a really lovely job. That was a BBC show, and it was a spin-off of the show The A Word. If you're familiar with that. And so we took a couple of the characters from The A Word and expanded their story and their life and explored their marriage, essentially. Yeah. And we did that in a writer's room. So I was brought in as one of the writers and wrote one of the episodes, which was based around Valentine's Day, my episode. And it was a really, really lovely opportunity, because that was the first time I'd written something that went and got actually filmed and broadcast, and it was such a lovely learning curve, and I feel very fortunate that I got to have that learning curve with that team, because honestly they were amazing. I really miss our Zooms together. We did it all on Zoom. I really miss our Zooms together, because it was just a really nice bunch of people, and that's the main thing I realize, that makes it good. Whenever I talk about a job that I love, it's often because of the people.
Yeah. So do you still get nervous when you go on stage?
I try and think about it as adrenaline rather than nerves. Because when I was at Mountview in my second year, I had hypnotherapy for the second time in my life. First time was for a needle phobia, and the second time was for kind of self-confidence and nerves and anxiety, particularly around performing. And I found I had certain blocks with performing. I was pretty confident with dance, to be honest, and fairly confident with acting, but I had a little bit of a block with singing sometimes. I think I got so wrapped up in the technical aspect of singing, my brain would be in overdrive, and that's when all those other feelings kind of kicked in. But I'm fairly good now, but I do have routines when I'm performing. I like to focus before I go on. I like to go over lines before I go and do a scene or song, and I like to do a full-on warm-up and be focused. So people probably see me backstage and think, oh, crikey, she must be really nervous. And I don't think I am. I think I'm just doing what I know I need to do
Yeah.
do a
I
performance.
suppose everybody has a routine they like to go through, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's different for every show. You know, I did a show called Medea, and my character started in the audience and didn't speak until kind of 15 minutes into the show, maybe. And then I was pretty relaxed about that because I kind of was like, well, I need to pretend I'm an audience member for the first, portion of the evening. So I don't want to go on there and I did all my warm up, obviously. It was very professional. But that was a very different experience in the wings compared to doing a one woman show that I did where, remember, I was at a tour and I felt like such a diva, and I apologized to the guy afterwards. I was like, I must look terrible, and he laughed at me and told me to not be silly, because he was chatting to me about all sorts just before I was about to go on, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I just need a moment. I did like my kind of little last minute warm up before going on, and he was very lovely, and he was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that you were about to go on and do an 80-minute solo show.
Hypnotherapy. Now there's a subject.
Oh, don't get him started on that.
Oh, really?
You had a needle phobia.
Yeah. When I was...
Did you get down to the crux of the matter where that began with the hypnotherapist?
I don't know whether... Well, I kind of knew anyway. I think when I was very young, I had a needle that went in badly and lots of blood went everywhere, essentially. So we kind of knew that was the root of it. But I was literally like, I couldn't have a blood test. I couldn't have anything. They had to, what was it? They had to like rub a kind of drug into my gums to like relax me enough to do it, or they'd wait till I was under general anaesthetic for a random operation to like do all the needle stuff. So it was really not ideal.
Yeah, Pat was a comedy stage hypnotist.
Oh my gosh!
So don't look into his eyes.
Yeah, no, I'm looking anywhere but now. Gosh, because I feel like it really works for some people.
Yes,
and I think I'm very susceptible because it's worked twice for me.
Really?
Yeah, where I've struggled with other things, I did a lot of therapy when I was younger and everything, and desensitization and all things like that. And it just turned out that hypnotherapy was the thing that worked for me, where it might not work for others. But I think I just like a lie down and like to shut my eyes.
Going back to your writing, Amy, you've won awards for that too.
Yeah, I won the Women's
Reasons
Prize.
You Shouldn't Love Me.
That's the one. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I guess I got into writing because acting was quite quiet for a time. So I started doing improv classes. I cancelled my singing lessons because they were very expensive and I wasn't really using the skills, which I kind of regret now. I kind of wish that I'd been able to keep them up, but
just out of interest, what would be the 3 tips you'd learnt from your singing lessons that you'd say that you'd give to an aspiring singer?
I know where he's going with this.
That is quite a question. Why is this a trap? Is it a trap?
No, it's not.
No.
It is.
We went for singing lessons together.
Oh, so you see.
I was just wondering if because Ed Sheeran was on I think that was a Jonathan Ross show, and he played a tape of his first song for the first time, and that was horrendous.
Really? Oh,
yeah, it was very bad. Very funny, very bad. No, obviously, we all know where Ed is. So, singing lessons obviously can give you tips.
I think I feel like breathing has been really important. Like breath control feels super important for me. And I don't know whether this is relevant for every singer, but if I focus on the story of the song or whatever I'm singing, then that helps me through. And so acting through song, I think, is really important. I think those 2 things, and also just relaxing. I think I've gone, but there are so many different things. I remember, I don't see myself as much of a belter when it comes to singing. But I remember one singing teacher, making me realize that I can do it if I just have a little bit more confidence in myself and just relax and just think and just open up a different technique. So I think just relaxing and giving it a go, probably.
All right.
But as I say, I'm like, well, I know I started up singing lessons again when I was doing the Little Big Things because I realised I needed to sing every night and wanted to have the stamina to do it properly. Because that's the other thing, isn't it? Like, you can sing and it can sound amazing, but you might lose your voice if you don't do it properly. So doing, having a technique that actually lends itself to performing 8 shows a week feels very important to me. I'd rather do it safely than do something incredible that I can't do again for another week.
We used to work 3 hours a night for 7 days a week in Benidorm.
Oh,
And that used to get to the throat. And luck would have it, we found this Caballero Ponche drink, and it used to really warm up your throat, but it was 75% alcohol. So,
crikey. Wow.
yeah, too much of that and you could be tipsy, but you just needed to sip a few, like a shot size, really.
Yeah.
But
there is all that, isn't there? Like ginger and lemon. Like if I know I'm singing, I'll stay very, very hydrated.
Yeah, I tried all that as well in between shows, during the day. Used to chew ginger. So that was one of the things that. So coming more up to date, you got engaged in 2024.
Yes, got
to
engaged.
Jordan.
Yeah,
wedding coming up soon. You say?
Yeah, not long now. Not long now at all.
Is everything prepared?
As much as can be at this stage. We've still got a few things to sort out, but we're very much getting there. I mean, the room I'm in at the moment, if I move a little bit, you can just see the amount of like wedding stuff behind me.
Wow.
That is, either ready to be made or ready to be moved to the venue and everything. But we're very excited. It's going to be lovely. Can't wait.
Excellent.
Can't wait.
But and also, I mean, I can't believe the amount of times you've been on my telly just lately.
Oh.
As I mentioned, you was in The Couple Next Door.
Yeah.
And then I won't name the program, but you weren't very nice in one of them, was you? When you
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she remembers now.
That was it. Well, it's a spoiler alert, I guess, if anyone hasn't seen the show, but yeah, I really wasn't very nice. Yeah.
And I thought, that's not the Amy that I knew.
Or is it? Who knows? Yeah. It's funny. I filmed quite a lot last year. When I finished The Little Big Things, I had kind of almost a year of going and doing different TV jobs every now and then, and it was quite lovely because it was a bit of it felt like a tapas year of TV, because I would go and do one job for a couple of weeks and then I'd do a job for a day, and it means that they're all coming out kind of at the same time. So people probably look at the TV and think, crikey, she's busy. Meanwhile, I'm at home. Like,
because you had a northern accent in The Couple Next Door, didn't you?
I know. Yeah. That was,
I thought it was good. Really good.
Thank you. I got a couple of friends to record the lines and work out what Yorkshire accents do. I did, because I have done a Yorkshire accent before for a play, but it's quite different. It feels quite different doing it on screen. You kind of don't want to.
No.
Want it to be natural.
I wish you well with all your career and all that. So
thank you.
We all need a bit of luck in life, and obviously you had a little bit of luck by meeting that teacher who helped you get on your way in this industry. What advice would you give to any young disabled individual hoping to break into film or television today?
I'd say to just do it and work hard and look into all the options, because there isn't one way of doing something. I went to drama school and did that route, but so many people I know who are very successful in their field didn't go to drama school. And so there's not one way of doing it. So look into what would work best for you. And also the friendships and relationships you form on the way are so important. And being aware of the work people are doing and working out who you look up to in not only their work and what they produce, but also how they do it. I think that's really important. And I guess when it comes to writing as well, I was talking about this last night, is you just got to write the thing. If you want to write something and get something made, just write it and see what happens. Because that's what I did with Reasons. I wrote a play that I thought, well, I might as well send it out, sent it off to anyone and everyone, and it went well and kind of launched my writing career. And that stemmed from me sitting down in my spare time and giving something a go, even though I didn't feel, I've always loved writing, but I didn't necessarily feel like the smartest person in the room. So I thought, what gives me the right to, write words? And you give yourself the right, essentially. You give yourself the right to write. There we go.
Do you read a lot?
Do I read a lot? Yeah, I do, but I read for work. So the books I read are incredibly like disjointed. I read a lot of memoirs. If I had the choice, I would read memoir after memoir. Like my favorite book is Amy Poehler's Yes Please. I love that. I love listening to memoirs, like audiobooks. I love doing that. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, I've got a book on the go called Act One, which is about playwriting. And then I'm reading a play at the moment as well that I didn't get to see in town. So I read a bit of everything. But I sometimes feel like I read so much for work. I get so excited when I go on holiday and I get to pick up a book that is just completely random and I get to read and not study.
I think a lot of people put off writing because they're worried about spelling and grammar.
Yeah. The amount of times I've written something and it's been grammatically pretty much perfect because it's been proofread by a lot of people. And then I'll get a note saying, can you do a pass on this where it sounds more like you and has more of your voice? And that's the point where it becomes slightly grammatically incorrect, but there's more of a character to the writing. So I try and not put too much pressure on myself in that sense. And also, I mean, I don't think I'd be very good at writing a novel. I'm going to put that out there. Maybe at some point, but right now, I don't think I have the skill set. I think I'd need to do some more kind of training and investigating before like going down that path. Whereas I feel quite confident writing scripts.
It's making notes of everything, Amy. You should make notes of all your career, and then you can look back on them, and then you'll, you know. It's only because I've done that with my book. I've written a book.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, it's not published yet, but that's all about my life in entertainment, really. All the people I've worked with.
That's up to 3 pages now.
No, I bet that's really interesting. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it is. I know.
2 pictures on one of the pages.
You can colour them in.
But don't you think, because like the reason I write is to make sense of what's going on in my brain. And like, for instance, earlier when we were talking, I kind of touched on it, you know, when I'm talking about representation and how good it is or bad it is in the industry, I find when I talk on like when I'm improvising, essentially just saying stuff, I'm like, this is so muddled, but I know that if I go away and write it down and re-edit it, I'll actually be able to say what I'm trying to say. And that's why I love writing so much. And I try and give myself a little bit of a break, you know, because if I'm being honest, you know, when I was answering that question, part of me was like, I'm just going to stop and start over and start again and be more like clear and have more clarity and sound more intelligent. But I can do that in my writing, and I can just say what I like in person. You'll have to put up with it.
One of our guests had a notebook next to his bed, and he woke up with a light bulb moment. He'd write notes in a book, so he'd remember it the next day.
Yeah, it's so true. I also do that with voice notes, because I feel like when I write, I often write character first, so dialogue comes to me quicker than anything else. So there's so many random voice notes on my phone that are characters who probably don't even exist anymore because they've been cut from the project, doing a little monologue while I've been, you know, at a service station.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, this is my researcher gave me this information. 2016, you were voted in Colchester as the new comedian of the year.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did comedy.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting one because I'd started improv classes and really gotten into that. I was doing a lot of improv, and then I did a improv to sketch course, which I loved. So that was when I started writing, actually, and then that led to just me writing sketches, which led to me doing a bit of improv. So I entered that competition, and basically it was like a one-woman sketch that I turned into a stand-up set. And it went better than expected because I just kind of entered the competition to give it a go. And I thought, well,
you won it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. And I loved it. And I'm very proud of that kind of sketch.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I don't know if you two have felt this, but what I struggled with stand-up, because I did a few more gigs and everything, but I found it quite lonely. Whereas I'd had the taste of doing improv, or doing shows where you're with a team and there's a few of you together. And it got to a point where I was like, oh, I know that feeds my soul more than this. So I'm going to focus on the other things for a bit. Because, I mean, fair play to any stand-up comedian because the amount of work it takes and the amount of travel and the amount of sitting backstage, like, on your own, going over material. It's just, I have a lot of respect for stand-ups who do it properly because I don't think I did it properly. But I loved it. I loved it, and it helped me out with, my writing and some of the shows I've done since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for Amy Trigg then?
Well, I am working on quite a few writing projects. Writing is kind of my main thing at the moment. And I'm always open to acting, but it's a little bit quiet out there for a lot of people. I think we're still coming back from the strikes that happened fairly recently and everything. But I've kind of, I've got quite a few TV projects in development with different broadcasters and everything. So fingers crossed some of that will happen. And I'm also writing for stage still. I'm writing a book for a musical and writing a few plays. So, working on that. And that's something.
Fantastic.
Will you be keeping your name when you're married?
Well, good question, because I am keeping Amy Trigg professionally because it just wouldn't make sense for me to change my name for acting and writing. Also, most of my friends, particularly friends I've met in the industry, call me Trigg. So I think they'd be very confused by me not having Trigg attached to my name. But legally and in everyday life, I'll be Amy Benjamin, which is exciting actually, because it feels like it gives me a bit of a separation between career and work and life basically. So that's exciting. Yeah, and I like the way it sounds. I think Amy Benjamin sounds like a good name.
Well, thank you very much, Amy.
Yes, thanks, Amy. We wish you a very happy marriage.
Yes, good luck on the big day.
Oh no, thank you so much. It's been lovely.
Take care. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Right, take care. Bye.
Bye. Another guest, another week, Martin.
What a lovely girl. Very interesting.
No, it's a great interview, and she's got a great character, and we wish her all the best, especially with her wedding coming up. Thanks very much, everybody, for listening, and I hope you enjoyed that interview, and we'll see you back here, same place, same time, next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, have a good week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Who's Tom and Dick podcast with your hosts, Martin Weavers and Patrick Mortimer. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. New episodes are available every Friday. Thanks for tuning in.